Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa, and I want to thank you and welcome you to our presentation tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's presentation. In just a minute or two, I will get started with our workshop for tonight. The topic is reducing problem behavior and getting your child listening, your child with ASD to listen. So I will be starting that presentation in just a moment. And as always, following the presentation, I will be available for question and answer. So please feel free to either post a question in the chat section or wait until the presentation is completed and then either raise your hand, or I will be going through the people who are still present and asking for anybody who would like to ask a question to please unmic yourself and join me. And at that time, I will be available to answer questions. In the meantime, if you think of a question and you don't want to forget it, or you might not be available during the time that I typically do question and answer, you can always post your question in the chat box. And I also want to mention that throughout the presentation, at any time, you can go into the chat and click on the link so that you can book a call, so you can speak with one of our experts, so we can see exactly how we can best help you. These workshops are wonderful, and our group meetings are wonderful ways of getting information out to a large number of people. However, when you're trying to appeal to a large number of people, you want to use very basic and general strategies that might work as an introduction. So these are kind of the first things that you would do if you were having this particular problem or issue. However, if you try to use the strategies that are suggested in tonight's presentation and you're having difficulty utilizing the strategies, or you have questions about them afterward, or you try to use them and you're not sure if you're using them correctly, or you use them and something unexpected happens, being part of our group, booking a call will allow you the opportunity to have access to us on an ongoing basis. So you can post questions in our Facebook group, which we answer very quickly. And sometimes the other families will jump in and give some suggestions and some support, or share materials as well, share information. Or you can have access to us with our one-to-one accelerator program so that we can help you and we can walk you through actually applying some of these strategies in with your child, and see what questions may or may not arise as you're implementing all of these great strategies. So without further ado, I'm going to start tonight's presentation on reducing problem behavior, getting your child with autism spectrum disorder to listen.
I remember when I got pregnant with my daughter, I felt so grateful and so blessed. My life up until that point had been pretty rocky. I'd had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, and I finally thought that I was turning a corner and God was blessing me with this beautiful gift of a child. And I just, yes, finally something was going in my way. And then when she was born, she was just absolutely perfect. I had all of these dreams and expectations for her. I thought of all the things that I thought she was going to do. Yeah, good girl. Right after her first birthday, I started to notice her behavior change. She went from, saying map. She was obsessed with Dora the Explorer, Mama, Dada. She was saying it all. Good girl, say map. Hit all of her milestones up to that point. She walked at 1. She was eating solid. She just, she looked really good. And then I just remember her, it felt almost overnight or very quickly, where her demeanor just changed. She went from this super happy baby to crying and tantruming, just frustrated all the time. And I remember saying to my mom one day during one of these tantrums, like, where did my happy baby go? but I didn't think anything past it. I think I was kind of not ready to fathom that something could be off, even though maybe the telltale signs were there.
Let's try Cheerios. Want Cheerios? Want Cheerios? Okay. Dress. Honey, you gotta get dressed. You gotta get dressed, honey. Come on, time to get dressed. She started to lose the words that she had gained. She wasn't saying mama anymore. She wasn't saying ma'am. She just seemed really disconnected from us. Instead of playing with her toys, she would take them, dump them all out of her toy box, and just start twisting them around her hands aimlessly with no intended purpose. I was really kind of in denial about it. And then I remember one day we were in the middle of a store, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, she just started screaming and yelling like somebody had slapped her. I don't even know what the problem was, and I was so mortified. I didn't even know what to do. I was so scared. I literally just left the half full cart in the store, picked her up, and just ran out of there. I never went to that store again. I just didn't even know what to think, and that was probably the first time it really kind of stung for me that maybe something is wrong. They diagnosed her. They didn't diagnose her right away. They said that she was too young for a diagnosis. I didn't even know what they meant when they said that. I was like, diagnosed with what? I just had no idea what they were talking about. And then they said, we'll come back in if you're not seeing progress. And I said, okay, And a couple months later, I'm watching these speech therapists play with her on the floor. I'm not seeing any progress, and felt like she was getting a little worse. And then we went for our 2-year-old wellness visit. And the doctor said that she was behind if she wasn't using 20 words with intent. And that was probably just a knife to my heart. At that point, I really couldn't deny that something was up with her anymore. So then I called the county back in, and then she was diagnosed on the spectrum. And I remember that day, and it was worst days of my life. It was my darkest hour. I could easily say that. As a mother, as a woman, as just a human being, it was probably one of the hardest times I had ever gone through. And I remember just I went from being so happy with God, so thankful, to being so pissed at him for doing this to her and wrecking this beautiful gift he had given me. And for a while there, I struggled. I struggled to figure out what this meant, or what we were going to do, or how this was going to define her. All those dreams I had for her future were just completely shattered, and I had no idea what was going to happen next. And I went from just hopeful to just complete blank when I thought about the future. One night I was thinking, I'm going to die one day, and who's going to care for her like her mother? And something about that thought just snapped me out of my depression and my anger and my fear and said, listen, we got to get to work here. I promised that when she was born, I was going to be the best mother I could be to her. And that promise, it hasn't changed. In fact, it should mean more now than ever, not less. She needs me now more than ever. And I didn't know at the time what we were capable of, or what having those changes, that mindset shift for me was going to do. But I wanted to know that at the end of every night, I could look myself in the mirror with confidence and say, did you do everything you could, Michelle, to give her the best possible life? And if the answer was yes, then that was a good day. And I wanted the answer to be yes, 100%. And no matter where the cards fell, I know I could leave this earth saying I gave her everything I had, no regrets. And as I've navigated this world with her and walked away that day after having that thought, I really just grabbed the bull by the horns. I became her fiercest advocate. I'm not a special education master's degree teacher. I never had any formal training in ABA, but I knew that I was going to learn whatever I needed to learn to be really strong for her. And Juliana lost all of her language. Cheerios? You want Cheerios? You don't want Cheerios. Okay. She was nonverbal when she was diagnosed. Show me what you want. Okay. You want something? We taught her sign language. Show me. Juliana, show me. Good girl. Then she went from sign language to word approximations. What? Okay, give us a moment. Then she started to speak. Say I did it. She went from the most restrictive preschool environment. She was in a 614, most restricted preschool, special education preschool environment you could be in. Your name is Yana. Good morning to you. Your name is Yana. And how do you do? Hi, Juliana. To now where she is almost 8 years old. She's in the 2nd grade class at school. Integrated class with the book. She speaks beautifully now. What do you like about the troll experience?
I like when they make noise like copies. And I like that they know like touch the paper.
She has a personality. She has conversation skills. There's still things that we need to work on, but for the most part, her future went from black to now having possibilities. And none of that could have happened had I not kind of gotten out of my own way and really hit the ground running and started to take action for her. And I can't say that I can do that for every parent I coach, but what I can tell them is I will have them feeling like I did, looking myself in the mirror, you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I was everything I could be for her today. I have no regret. And whatever happens, it happens. It's really for us as parents to know we fulfilled the duty that we promised when we had these children, which was to be the best versions of ourselves, to live, to raise these children. I've helped now hundreds of mothers, coach them one-on-one to do the same things I did, to help them to be strong, to help them to craft plans where we're seeing constant progress. This is what I want to do. I want to give you the chance that Juliana's had. I want to give you every opportunity to give your child that happiness.
Juliana, today you will wish a day full of happiness, spent with friends, many good memories will you begin, and great times. I hope you will never end. Happy birthday, Love King.
I love that video every time I watch it. So we always like to start our presentation with Michelle's video so that you can see where she's come from and how utilizing the same skills and strategies that we review during these workshops and during our weekly group parent meetings, how applying those strategies helped Juliana so much and to bring her from where she was, where she lost all of those skills, to where she is now. So let's review some of these things a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about managing your child's behavior. The most successful keys to behavior management are consistency and repetition, which I know is easier said than done. Rules will need to be repeated again and again, but you must stick to the rules you make at all times. Now, I do see that a couple of people have their hands raised. I just want to mention that after I am through with the presentation, I will be doing question and answer, and I will be happy to answer all of your questions then. If you are worried that you may forget your question between now and the time the presentation is over, feel free to post that question in the chat box, and I will look through that before I start answering in-person questions at the end of the presentation. So please don't think I'm ignoring your questions. I just want to get through the presentation because your question may be answered by some of the information during the presentation. Okay, so back to managing your child's behavior. You must also be clear. It is very important to give clear instructions so your child knows what is expected of him or her. You need to be proactive. So you have to do everything you can think of to make it least likely that the problem behavior will occur. So if your child is throwing blocks at the window, maybe you can just remove the blocks and that will stop the behavior in the moment. That doesn't mean that your child will not throw blocks again if blocks are next to them. But there are times where we want to remove access or change the environment to make it least likely the behavior will happen. Then we can reinforce the absence of that behavior. So that is not the end of that intervention, just so that you know. And you need to get organized. I'm sorry for some of you, I know that is difficult, but we do have to get organized because it makes managing behavior easier. You have to start with a simple plan that's easy to do and stick with it. You have to keep a written record of progress so you know what works and you know what doesn't. And if something is not working, we have to figure out why and then adapt based on what we have learned. Maybe we need to revise the plan. Maybe we need to throw it out altogether and start with something new. Maybe we just need to wait a little bit more time. Maybe we need to add a prompt or a visual. So again, we have to do something that is doable and stick with it. So if you are given a suggestion and you know it's not going to work for you, don't just say yes and try it anyway. If you know it's not going to work for you, let us know that. We have other ideas. We have other strategies. There's more than one way to skin a behavior, and we have a lot of different options. That was just the one that we chose in the moment to present to you first. So if that one is not going to work for you, let us know. We will come up with another strategy. Other variables that will affect compliance. Do not use a question when giving a command. So you want to say something like, please start your work, instead of, isn't it time to start your work? Or do you want to come over here and help me with something? Or can you please, open your book and start your homework? Because if you're asking, they can say no. Get close to your child before giving a command. The optimal distance is about 2 to 3 feet. Not from across the room, not from the next room, not until your child is demonstrating consistent compliance. And we'll talk about that a little later. You want to look your child in the eyes, and that is to make sure your child is attending to you before you provide a command or direction. If your child is not attending to you, they may not be listening to you. They may be, but they may not be. And if they are not really attending to you and you give them a directive, they're not going to follow that directive. And then all you've taught them in that moment is that they don't always have to listen to you the first time you tell them something. And that's very important. They have to learn that the first time you say something is their opportunity to respond and get reinforced for that response. So make sure your child is attending first. Use a quiet voice. Don't be emotional. Again, I know easier said than done, but this will increase compliance. You want to be calm, not emotional. Yelling, threatening, using threatening gestures, using ugly faces, using guilt-inducing statements, roughly handling the child, or using deprecating comments about the child only reduce compliance, both in the moment and long term. So if you're emotional in the moment, you need to take a deep breath, give yourself a second, and then give the directive. And I understand that can be difficult to do, but if we are expecting your child with a disability to learn how to maintain their temper and manage their emotions when they're upset and to respond calmly, we need to be able to do the same thing. And as the adults, we have to model that behavior, because if we can't do it, it's not fair to expect the child to do it, especially a child that has a developmental disability. That's just not fair. So if you can't take a minute, calm yourself down, and not respond emotionally in the moment, it's very difficult to expect your child to do the same thing. So we have to practice sounding calm even when we may not be. Okay, let's look at some other variables that affect compliance. You want to make more start requests than stop requests. And what I mean by that is requests that start requests are more desirable than requests that inhibit behaviors. So asking them to do something is more desirable than asking them to stop doing something. So if they're doing something that you don't like, is there something else you can direct them to do instead? So instead of saying, don't do this, where you're not telling them what you want them to do instead, could you say, do this instead? Don't request like I said, are not informative. They don't tell the child what they should be doing instead. So if the majority of your instructions involve telling your child what not to do, you have to adjust your household rules and consequences. You may have to minimize, pick 1 or 2 rules. And that's it. If you have too many rules and your child already isn't following them, having that many rules is not working. Start smaller. Start with 1 rule that you know you can follow through with. Start with 2 rules that you know you can follow through with. Once we get those under control, we could always add more. This is an important one. Do not nag. And what I mean by nag is to repeat an instruction without a correction or a prompt or anything like that. So it's just repeating yourself over and over again. Issue a direction only once, then follow through with a consequence. The more you request without follow through, the more you're teaching your child that they don't have to listen to you the first time you speak. So as an example, I could remember when I was a kid, we would be playing outside, and eventually your parents would call you in for the night and you would get the first call, come on in for dinner, and you knew you had time. The second call a minute later, get in here, kids. We still have some time. The next call a few minutes later might be, get your butts in here. We still have a little bit of time, you know. Then when the lights start flashing on and off in front of the house and they're yelling, get in here now. Okay, now we know we have to go. Why? Why didn't we go the first 3 times? Why did we wait for that 4th time? Because we knew that 4th time they were serious. And if we didn't come in at that point, they were probably going to come out and get us. But we knew they weren't going to come out and get us the first time. Your child is learning the same thing. So if you say, come here, and your child doesn't come here, and then you say, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, all they're learning is they don't really have to listen to you when you give them a direction. So give the direction, do not give multiple requests. Give the direction 1 time. If they follow your direction, praise them, give them access to a reward. Usually your genuine, enthusiastic attention and praise is usually enough, but if you need an additional reinforcer, you can use that as well. If they do not follow your direction, prompt them to follow the direction, or give them a correction. You can model the right response. You can direct them to the right response. You can physically prompt them through the right response, then give them another opportunity to follow that direction. So if I say to my child, come here, and they don't come over, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to physically prompt them to come over to me, closer to me, and I'm going to say, that's coming here. Let's try that again. And I'm going to back up a couple of steps, but still quickly within arm's reach. I'm going to give the direction again. And this time, if they follow it, they get big bells and whistles. If they don't, again, I prompt them and I tell them again in a very neutral tone, this is coming here. Let's try that again. Eventually your child will see, well, this is boring. There's no fun to this. And I'm not getting to move on to anything else until I just follow that directive. I may as well do it. So the other thing is you don't want to give multiple requests in terms of multiple steps if your child is already having difficulty following directives in general. You want to give 1 directive at a time. You don't want to string requests together. So you don't want to say something like, grab your plate, put it in the sink, throw your trash in the garbage, grab your shoes and meet me at the front door. That's just way too many steps, way too complicated. Or put away your books and your toys and then go grab the remote, put that on the table, and then let me know when you're done. Like, again, too many. Give 1 direction at a time. When that direction is followed, then give the next one. Once your child gets better at following single step directives, then we can tackle multiple step directives as well. You want to describe the behavior you want to see. So it really helps to give specific and well-described requests rather than global requests. So sit with your feet on the floor is a specific and well-described request. Sit nicely is a global request that has a lot of room for interpretation. So my idea of sitting nicely and your idea of sitting nicely might be 2 very different things. You want to give your child time to respond. So after you give a directive, Give your child 3 to 5 seconds to respond before giving the command again and providing that pre-planned consequence, whether it's an error correction, planned ignoring, using low probability requests or behavior momentum, etc. So you want to give 3 to 5 seconds. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. So if I say, touch your nose, that's how much time you have to respond in 5 seconds. Okay. So if you didn't respond in that amount of time, then it's time for me to prompt you or to model the response. Or again, depending on what the behavior is, whatever that pre-planned response was. You want to verbally reinforce compliance. So it's very easy, especially once your child starts following directives or for the directions they are currently following, it can get very easy to forget and not socially reward them when they comply with your request. But if you don't reward your child for following directions, eventually they're going to stop following them because they're going to figure out that it's more fun to do something else, or they have more control over your behavior when they don't do what you're saying than when they do what you're saying, because they get a bigger response from you when they don't do it than when they do follow your directive. So think about how you respond to your child when they're following a direction, and think about how you're responding to your child when they're not following a direction, and see what the difference is. That could be a variable that's affecting whether or not they're more or less likely to listen to your direction. Initially, you want to reward every direction followed correctly and quickly. But very quickly, you're going to move to only rewarding some correct responses and not others. That means we're going from a continuous rate of reinforcement to an intermittent rate of reinforcement. And all that means is when we're teaching a new skill, we want to reward every opportunity that that child is using that skill so they get the idea of what it is we're reinforcing. So every time I say, touch your nose, and your finger ends up here on your face, touching your nose, something good happens. So if we are able to reward every single time that happens, they're going to make the association between the direction touch your nose and their finger actually making contact with their nose. Okay. Once they understand that, once they've acquired that skill and they're doing it pretty much every time, or every 8 out of 10 times that you're asking them, they're touching their nose. At that point, you want to start thinning your reinforcement schedule. So you want to go from rewarding every single correct response to maybe every other correct response. So if I say, Johnny, touch your nose, and they touch their nose, and I'm like, great job, I love the way you touched your nose, way to go, while they're learning it. And now I want to start feeding back. The first thing I'll do is lower my reinforcement. So I'll just say, Johnny, touch your nose for response 1. They touch their nose, and I'll go, great job, you touched your nose. So I'm still letting them know they were correct, but I'm not making as big of a deal about it. Then the second time I say, touch your nose, and they touch their nose. Awesome, way to go, good job, you did it. So I give more response on the second response. So again, now I'm starting to reward every other response as opposed to every response. That's still predictable. So over time, we want to vary the number of responses that we're rewarding so it's unpredictable. It's the same thing that makes you sit in front of a slot machine and keep pumping money into that slot, because you are sure if you walk away, that next pull is going to be a jackpot, because sometimes you win a little, sometimes you don't, but every now and then you might win a little, and that's what keeps you sitting there. It's called variable reinforcement. So eventually we want to get to that level with your child, because if they can't predict that the next response will or won't get reinforcement, they're not going to give up. They're not going to say, oh, well, I wasn't rewarded this time, so I must have done it wrong. I shouldn't do that again. They're just going to understand that, oh, well, maybe the next time is the time I'll get the response I'm looking for. Okay, so we'll talk more about that. So let's talk about increasing compliance. The best way to teach behavior, any new behavior, is to use lots of rewards. For every problem or inappropriate behavior, there is a good behavior that can take its place. We want to give rewards after the behavior you want to see occur again, so your child will want to replicate that experience again. And with consistency, your child will make the connection between the appropriate behavior and the reward. This is why it's better to be bland and boring and neutral in response to an inappropriate behavior, because even what you believe to be a negative consequence can reinforce behavior. Any reaction can influence future behavior. So if your child does something, so say they throw a heavy book down on the floor and it makes a loud noise, and you say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then they throw another book down. You're like, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to do that." And they do it again. Your response is what's reinforcing that. They're doing it to get the response from you. So no response at all when they threw the book down on the floor the first time, they would have seen, "Oh, well, nothing special happened, so that's not fun. I might as well try something different." So any reaction, sometimes scolding a child, can actually reinforce that behavior instead of reducing that behavior, which is why we always choose positive reinforcing plans, especially first. We always try to reward the behavior we want to see again, because if you do reward behavior, you will see it again. It's just a matter of what your child finds reinforcing. You want to catch him or her being good. So your child will cooperate with the rules when there's an overall positive relationship where he or she feels valued and loved, which is another reason why it's helpful to use lots of rewards when managing behavior. So we try to use the 10-to-1 rule. For every negative comment or correction, there should be 10 positive comments or rewards. Okay, so if I have to correct one time, I'm going to make sure that the next 10 things I ask them to do are things that they're able to do, so I don't have to correct again. Because if you have to correct too much, that interaction becomes punishing in and of itself. So if you're rewarding on a 10-to-1 ratio to correcting or ignoring, then your child is going to enjoy the experience. And they're going to see the difference between when they do something that you want them to do again and when they do something that you don't want them to do again. So you have to be very careful not to accidentally reward problem behaviors. So if your child throws a tantrum to get attention, don't provide the attention in response to that tantrum. Otherwise, your child got what he or she wanted by using a tantrum instead of through appropriate language or behavior. And the next time they want attention, it will happen again. So let's talk about some proactive strategies, okay? What works versus what does not work, okay? What works, ignore. Ignore the behavior, not the child. So if a child is doing something inappropriate and I ignore the behavior, I'm still going to keep an eye on the child to make sure that they are safe. If I have to intervene to keep them safe, I'm not going to provide eye contact. I'm not going to talk to them. I'm not going to smile or provide comforting facial expressions or body language. I'm just going to intervene to keep them safe, but I'm going to remain boring, bland, and neutral the entire time. So ignore the behavior, but not the child. Change the environment. So like I said before, sometimes just changing the environment can work. Take the blocks that they're throwing away so there's nothing to throw. Now maybe go in another room and engage them in something that they enjoy. Give them something to do that they are successful with. Just going from one room to another sometimes can change the whole dynamic. So change the environment. You want to say what you want to see. So like I said before, be specific. Please sit down with your feet on the floor as opposed to please sit nicely. Distract the child. So sometimes distracting the child right before a tantrum is about to blow can totally divert and undo what was just about to occur. So sometimes distracting the child, not reinforcing the maladaptive behavior, but before the tantrum happens, distracting them with something else can prevent the behavior from happening. That's okay. That's not reinforcing the tantrum because the tantrum hasn't happened yet. So as you start to see those little cues that your child's about to get set off, that's where you can provide a distraction. And hopefully that will prevent the tantrum from happening in the first place. You want to give positive feedback. So again, praise, give specific praise and specific feedback. You want to use if-then statements. So if we do this, then we do that. If you do this, then this happens. If you do that, then this happens. And then you have to follow through on the if-then statement. You have to accept and tolerate. So again, we want to accept and tolerate what you can. You want to pick your battles. You can't change every single behavior all at once. So we have to prioritize. We have to decide which behaviors we're addressing and which behaviors we are going to accept, tolerate, and let go for right now. You want to prevent. So again, if it's possible to prevent the behavior from happening, let's prevent the behavior from happening. I've had students that were throwing objects from their dressers around their room. We took the whole dressers out. Like, we prevented the behavior because the dresser wasn't there to throw things off of. So sometimes we can prevent the behavior from happening. We can block it. We can, again, just physically or environmentally prevent it from happening. Charts and stars. So you can give stickers, you can give stars or happy faces, or make a token board or whatever might catch your child's attention. And if they happen to have a favorite movie or character, you can make little multiple cutouts of that character. You can make a board on the shape of that character or put stickers of that character all over a token board. You can take away a privilege for a designated period of time. But remember, it's not the taking away of the privilege that changes behavior. It's getting it back that changes the behavior. So if you were just inappropriate with something and I have to take that something away, now you're appropriate for a period of time. I'm going to let you know, wow, I love the way you were just sitting nicely. Now we can have this back and let's do it together so I can show you how to do it appropriately. Okay, so it's the getting back. It's not the taking away. So you want to take it away for a designated period of time and then give another opportunity to earn it back. If now that inappropriate behavior happens and you have to take it away again, you're taking it away for a designated period of time, then giving it back. So again, the more opportunities they have to see, wow, when I'm appropriate, I get access to this. And when I'm not appropriate, it gets taken away, the more that connection will be strengthened. What does not work? Yelling. Yelling does not work. I know it's instinctual to do it in the moment and it's cathartic, but especially if you're trying to get your child to not engage in that behavior, if you engage in that behavior, you're modeling the wrong thing. So if you don't want your child to yell when they're upset, you can't be yelling when you're upset. Scolding. That does not work. Again, telling your child what they should not do doesn't inform them as to what they should do instead. Lecturing. Again, for a lot of kids with the ASD, too many words, too much language, too abstract, and doesn't necessarily relate to the moment the next time they're about to engage in that behavior. So lecturing doesn't work, but immediate reinforcement and immediate consequences do work. Threatening, that really does not work because it does not take long before your child realizes you don't always mean what you say. So I am usually the toughest person on all of my students. I usually have the highest expectations for my students out of everybody. So you would assume that they wouldn't really want me around because I make them work really, really hard. but they do. They want me around because even though they may not like my rules, they understand my rules, and my rules are always the same. I always say what I mean and mean what I say. If I were to threaten something and then not follow through with it, they would pick that up very quickly and I would lose all credibility. It only takes one time for you to not follow through, for your child to then assume that they should test you each and every time. Bribing does not work. Bribing is not the same thing as reinforcement. Okay. Bribery benefits the person who is bribing. Okay. Reinforcement helps the person who's being reinforced. Okay. Bribery happens first. I'm going to give you this thing, and then you're going to do this thing for me. Right? Reinforcement is different. It comes after the behavior. You do this behavior, and then as a consequence to that behavior, this positive thing happens. So bribing is not the same thing as reinforcement, and it does not work. Spanking does not work. Again, if you are trying to get your child to not engage in aggressive behavior, then you engaging in aggressive behavior, which is how they will perceive it, gives a mixed message. So if you do not want your child to hit, then you cannot hit your child, because then all your child learns is if you're mad enough, it's okay. Or if you're big enough, it's okay. And someday your child might be bigger than you. Name calling also does not work. All it does is hurt the child's self-esteem, make them feel bad about themselves, makes them not want to make you happy. So they're going to be more, it's going to be more enjoyable to get a negative reaction from you than a positive reaction from you. And it hurts them. It hurts their self-esteem. Criticizing. Again, criticizing does not tell somebody what they should be doing instead. It just tells them what they were doing wrong and makes it punishing to even try. Sending your child to bed. Again, that is not in and of itself, that does not help. It is not helpful. It's one thing to say, go take a break or calm down, but just sending your child to bed as a result of a specific behavior isn't enough. More times than not, their rooms are very reinforcing to them, and they have a lot of items and activities. And again, it's not instructive. It doesn't teach them what to do instead. So it's better to come up with a natural consequence or consequence that matches the behavior in some way. So all of this is wonderful information for you guys, and it's all the starting point. So this is where you would start with your child in order to start increasing compliance. But what happens when these initial strategies aren't enough, or when you've tried these things and they don't work, or when you're having difficulty implementing these strategies? Well, if you have access to us on a regular basis, we can help you implement all these strategies as you're working on implementing them. So go into our chat box and into the chat section and click on the link to book a call. And one of the things that we offer is a 3-month group coaching program, and we have guaranteed results for this. What you get in the 3-month group coaching program, first of all, you get education. You get lifetime access to our masterclass self-study course, which gives you a lot of tools, tips, and a roadmap that you need to get you and your child results. So there's a lot of intervention information in the education section. Community. There's a private Facebook community where every post gets personalized and tailored coaching by our team. Okay, our support is our North Star. That is how we guide everything. So if one of our members posts on the Facebook group, we're all going to analyze what's going on and respond right away. And sometimes some of the other parents might chime in and say, oh, this is something that worked for me, or I'm going through the same thing and this is what's worked, or this is difficult for me too. I understand where you're coming from. Let me know if you need to talk. So it's a really great community to be a part of. And you get 3 live expert weekly coaching calls. So you get Michelle, our mindset coach, and a BCBA like myself, sometimes myself, where we build week over week to achieve the goals that you have for your child. So each week there'll be a live call like this, where we will go over, the BCBA will go over a brief training presentation. Michelle will also do a weekly call where you will have access to her, and our mindset coach will also do a weekly live coaching call where again she will give you she will give you guidance in the group, so you can raise your hand, you can discuss what's going on, and again we'll give you individualized suggestions. Excuse me. So the coaching, the 3 weekly Zoom group live coaching with our team. Coach Michelle is your one-stop shop for all your needs. Okay, she's awesome. She's an autism mom, and she's a life coach. The BCBA calls might be with Stacy Warner, might be with Armando Bernal, might be with myself, and our mindset coach, your built-in therapist for 3 months. And Stella is amazingly awesome. She is there to really help you with anything that's coming up and get you in the right mindset in order to apply all of these strategies. And there's also a monthly coaching call with a registered dietitian, and Greer is amazing. So many of your students have difficulty with their diets, with feeding issues, and Greer is the person that you want to speak to about that. She is invaluable. So you get our community, like I said, our private Facebook group just for our students where no question goes unanswered. And like I said, the other parents understand what you're going through. So there's nothing you can't talk about. There's nothing that you can't ask about. Nobody is judgy. Everybody is extremely understanding. And sometimes you really get that extra assistance and that extra community just through the other parents, as well as access to the professionals. So let's look at the self-study program. Again, 3 months of group coaching, the Facebook community. And if you enroll now, excuse me, I'm sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. So as part of our package that includes the self-study program, the 3 months of weekly group coaching, the Facebook community, and if you enroll tonight, if you click on that button tonight, you will also get the Potty Power course, which is over 3 hours of nonstop potty content to get your child potty trained. Sorry, it's a lot of vowels in a row. You also get Advocate Like a Boss course. So this is really, really important because you are the advocate for your child. You are your child's voice. So learning what you can do, what you can't do, what your child and you are eligible for. This is what helped Michelle get Juliana to where she is today. So we will teach you how to advocate like a boss. So this expires at midnight. The price goes up on July 1st. So for tonight, it's only $1,647 or 3 payments of $585 for this 3-month course. It's normally $3,000. So you're getting it for just about half price. And we have a guarantee. If you show up and you do not see results in your 3 months, in your 90 days, you stay until you do. Okay, so you're paying for 3 months, but if you need 4 or you need 5, you will get it. So there is a link in the chat box. Just click on the chat box and there is a link there. Click on that link and book a call. If you need more support, just book a call with our CFOC team and they will let you know exactly what we have available, exactly how we can help you. Here again is the link or the website, the address, so you can type that into your web browser or you can click right on the link in our chat box. It is so helpful, as you will hear in just a moment. You can also email Stella@michellebrodgers.com. Again, that's Stella@michellebrodgers.com, and she can set you up as well. So I'm going to play this video so you can hear from some of the other members that have booked a call and hear what they have to say and how helpful this program has been for them. And then at the end, I will open it up for Q&A.
So when you came to us, what were your biggest struggles prior to joining the program? And what was your child's biggest struggles before you came to us?
First, the big one was potty training and speech. Like he had some words, but I couldn't really get him to fully tell me, you know, what he wanted. So those were always my two biggest concerns with him, and for him and me, I guess, so for both of us.
This was the 7-year-old kid, he turned 7 in July, who will pee and pretty much poop in his pull-ups. When you look at him, like, my God, something's gotta be done.
So we were not potty trained, we were not talking much. He wasn't able, if I told him to go get something, do any of those things.
Behaviors were starting to become more prevalent where he was becoming obstinate, stubborn, refusing to do the things we asked of him, to the point where he was even, destroying his room.
Speech was a big thing because he wasn't talking. It was a lot of just silence. Nothing. I came in just feeling very helpless, very confused, alone, not knowing what to do to help my baby.
By the time he was 21 to 22 months, he had lost all of his words and he was talking in phrases. By about 22 months, no words left, very unengaged, no eye contact, doesn't answer to his name.
Older was having meltdowns. The younger one was nonverbal and the verbal issues, communication issues.
Since he was diagnosed just before he turned 3, and you kind of feel like you're left out on your own in the cold, and you want to do every single thing you can for your kids.
Tell us what he's done, what he's accomplished. How do you feel now versus where you were when you started?
He's totally potty trained. We go everywhere just in our undies. We don't have to worry about that. He is speaking way more.
When I called you at first, I was really overwhelmed. But now, probably, I would say I never get overwhelmed, but I'm able to retrace. I really saw improvement. It was like day and night. I'll just rush to where we are now, where Joseph will just run to the bathroom to pee. And it's not just pee. Joseph will run to the bathroom, and I'm like, where are you going? I'm chasing him, and he's going to the bathroom, pull his pants down, and he's doing number 2.
So that helped me a lot, helped me calm down and just focus on that. So focusing on getting him not scared of the toilet. And then that took a little bit, but then he finally was sitting down doing it. Yeah, it went really well. Like the tips you guys gave me, all the potty stuff worked great. He was finally sitting down, going to the potty, and we're fully potty training.
Each of you gave me something else that I didn't know or needed guidance in. The BCDAs obviously gave me help in the technical work with Brandon and how to encourage language and behavior. Stella gave me the emotional support.
You guys saved my family. I don't know how I got through as much as I did without you.
He's doing so much better, more eye contact for sure. We're working on talking, on saying some words, and just happier, I think because I'm happier.
More communication and potty training. And so when we started working together now, he is much more verbal. He's speaking in sentences. He kept reminding me to, you can do this, you can do this. And we did.
It has been fantastic. My son is thriving in an integrated preschool. And, if I ever have any concerns, I can reach out to Michelle. She gets back to me right away.
They're doing really, really well. Both are potty trained. I'd say 95% of the time, doing really, really well. I think their ABA program here is wonderful. We got very lucky with that, and we've got good vision for the future.
All right, so then my last question for you is, would you recommend us to any other parents?
Every single person that I have met, I've already told them about you and your agency.
Absolutely. Hands down of everything we've done, this has been the best thing, just having so much support in the different areas. So absolutely, hands down, I would recommend this a million times over.
I would definitely prefer anyone to this, because again, I never thought he was going to be potty trained.
It's worth it, I think anything, if you get just a little bit out of it, it's worth it. And I've gotten so much from this, so do it is what I would say.
I will recommend you, whoever has a child on the spectrum, I will recommend Michelle.
I mean, if you have a chance to do this, I definitely recommend it. It has made all the difference. Thank you.
Okay, so I am now going to look in first our Q&A. Will handouts be available to us? So we don't necessarily have handouts per se, but you this presentation is recorded, and you will be able to have access to the presentation over and over again so that you can rewatch it, and anything that you need to see again, or if you have questions on, you can watch it multiple times. Let's say I used to react negatively and give attention to my child's problem behavior. Now that I've learned not to react, my child continues the problem behavior and won't stop until I react. This can sometimes go on for 30 minutes or more. How do I reverse this behavior? So this is a question that was posted by Mac. Mac, I'm going to answer live right now. So yes, this can happen because your child has a longer learning history that you used to react. So they're going through what's called an extinction burst. So when you first change what's expected, that the child's expecting to receive, when you first stop giving them that, it's almost as if they want to make sure you're seeing the behavior, so that it's not that you missed it and didn't react because you didn't see or didn't experience the behavior. And part of it is almost as if they're saying, oh, you think you can ignore that? Try and ignore this. Oh, you think you can ignore this? Try and ignore that. So there's a little bit of that going on. So if this is going on and on and on, and your child is for 30 minutes or more, the first thing I would do is I would say, record, take data and write down how long the start time and the stop time each time it's happening. And that way you can see over a couple of days, is the behavior getting less? Is it peaking and then going down, or is it continuing to go up, or is it staying the same? So is it always lasting for 30 minutes, or is it lasting for 30 minutes today, and then tomorrow it's lasting like 27 minutes, and then the next day it's lasting like 25 minutes, and then one day it's lasting 26 minutes, and then it's lasting 24 minutes, and then maybe 22 minutes, and 24 minutes, and 23 minutes. And overall, you can see that's going down. So you know what you're doing is working. If it's not going down, then we need to change what you're doing. The only thing that I would add to what you're doing now is you always want to give your child, first you want to stop responding to the negative behavior, but you also have to teach them a way to get what they were looking for appropriately. So if your child was acting out because they want your attention, and they have no appropriate way to gain your attention, they will continue to engage in negative behavior in order to get access to that attention eventually. Like if they have no other way to get your attention, they're going to keep trying. So if it's for attention, which it sounds like it is if you're choosing an ignore procedure, then I would add teaching your child how to solicit your attention appropriately. They can raise their hand. If they're verbal, they can call your name or call ma, call da. They can tap you on the arm. They can tap you on the hand. They can hand you a picture. So that way it gives them an appropriate way to get your attention, because just because you're not responding to it doesn't mean they don't still want it. So they have to have an appropriate way to get it. And the inappropriate way, it's like that switch is disconnected, that circuit no longer works. So that way, the only way they can get access to the appropriate behavior is the only way they can get their payoff is through the appropriate behavior. So that would be the one thing that I would add to what you're already doing. And in addition, that data collection, and then please come back on another week so that we can see where you're at and see if there are any other suggestions that you may need. Let's see, Letitia Foe, most of the children that are in these breakthrough videos starting before 4 years old, therefore the child's brain is still in development mode. However, my child is nonverbal, doesn't read or write, is not potty trained, and is going to be 8. Okay. The earlier you start, the better, only because the longer that your child is not communicating, the longer that nonverbal communication is working for them, and the longer that the behavior is working, the harder a habit it is to break, because it's like they're speaking their own language. They've developed their own language and it's working for them. So why should they now have to speak English? I'll use a poor example. It's like when most Americans travel overseas and they expect everybody to speak to them in English. Why should they have to speak to us in English when we're visiting their country because we don't know their language. So they adapt to us. That's what's happening with your child, is that the language, the way he's getting his needs met right now is working for him. So why should he utilize this other strategy? But that does not mean that it cannot happen. Okay. I have started working with kids at age 8, at age 9, at age 10, at age 12, at age 16, at age 18. And as soon as we're able to start implementing consistent strategies, we're able to see progress. There are times we might need to adapt our expectations. So if we see that after a long period of time of utilizing a variety of different interventions and utilizing them well and utilizing them consistently, if we see that your child still isn't developing vocal verbal speech, that doesn't mean he can't develop communication skills. He can learn to communicate, or she can learn to communicate using sign, using pictures, using an augmentative device that speaks for them, using a device that they could type and it'll speak for them, a device that they can press pictures and it'll speak for them. So just because your child is older doesn't mean that they can't still learn to develop these same skills. Granted, it might take a little longer because they've been engaging in this habit for 8 years as opposed to engaging in a habit for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. But your brain does not stop developing until you are between 25 and 27 years old. So you still have a lot of time. And just like an old expression that I've heard, what you feed grows. Okay, so your brain, it's called the theory of mind and brain elasticity. Your brain can still develop new connections. And if you utilize those connections, they will be strengthened. And the ones that you stop using will be weakened. So over time of not reinforcing the negative behavior and reinforcing the positive behavior, those connections will strengthen in your child's mind. So don't feel that just because they're 8 that you've missed the boat. Like I said, your brain does not stop developing until you're at least 25 to 27 years old. There is still time. So please do not give up hope. But it does sound to me like you might need a little bit more assistance than just participating in a workshop once or twice a month. So I would definitely recommend clicking on the link in the chat room and booking a call and speaking to one of us in person so we could see exactly what your needs are. We could let you know exactly what we can offer you, and then you can see if this is something that you want to move forward with, because I think providing that a little additional assistance along the way will really make all the difference in being able to apply these strategies successfully to a nonverbal child who's 8. But please don't lose hope. I promise you, we can still get there. So please book a call. Don't give up. We'll do it. I promise. We've done it before. We'll do it again. Just because your child is 8, do not give up hope. Thank you for an excellent presentation. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I really appreciate that, Bonnie. Thank you. Let's see, what would be an appropriate period of time for taking away a privilege from a 4-year-old? This is for Peggy. Peggy, I usually say a minute per year. So if they're 4 years old, usually 4 minutes. So I would say anywhere between 2 to 4 minutes, depending on the child's age. So I use like I said, a standard of a minute, give or take. So I would say anywhere from 30 seconds per year up to a minute per year, but I really wouldn't do more than that. You really want to be able to give those opportunities. But again, it depends on what the privilege is. So if it's something that you're taking away briefly and you're taking it away for 4 or 5 minutes and then giving it back to them, that's fine for like a little item, something that they might be utilizing inappropriately. Say it's something like the iPhone or the iPad, depending on how much access they have to it on a regular basis. I've done another presentation that gives media guidelines for kids at different ages. So if it's something like that, please feel free to take it away for a much longer period of time. But as far as a behavior goes, in order to take away a privilege and then earn it back, because like I said before, it's the earning back that really gives that idea to the child. I would start with about a minute per year. You could always go up from there. So if you take what I've done in the past, because sometimes we have to add contingencies in multi-layers. So in the past, I've started with, I'm going to take this away for 4 minutes. and I'm going to give you the opportunity to earn it back. Once you earn it back, if I have to take it away again, take it away for 4 minutes, give you the opportunity to earn it back. You can earn it back. I usually use the 3 strikes and you're out rule. So if I've taken it away from you 3 times, like in a row, I'm going to start going up on the time. Okay, so after the 3rd time that I've taken it away for 4 minutes and he's earned it back, the next time I take it away is going to be for 5 minutes. The time after that is going to be for 6 minutes. The time after that is going to be for 7 minutes. And as he sees the time on the timer going up each time, that's going to change the motivational value of losing it. Okay. And again, if you need more assistance, please book a call, come back, and we could do it with you periodically, week by week. Let's see, Crystal Esparza. My son is 5 and he's hitting his head really hard to where both ears bruise. He has a helmet and he doesn't mind putting it on. He still socks his head, but of course it's protected now. I'm afraid he's going to keep doing it with it on. Is there anything else I can do so he doesn't depend on it and it constantly keep happening? So Crystal, the first question that I would have for you, have you gotten a medical evaluation to make sure that there's nothing going on medically or neurologically? So that would be my first recommendation, because if there is something medical going on or there is something neurological going on, that's something that would have to be addressed medically. If it's not a medical or neurological issue, if it's not a seizure or a tic or anything else that might be medical or neurological, then I have a feeling that part of what might be adding to the behavior could be a reaction. It's obviously very upsetting to see your child hitting their head. And even though his head is protected in the helmet, it's still very upsetting to have your child hitting their head. I would recommend maybe getting some make the environment as cushy as possible, have a safe space for him that is as cushy as possible. So if there is either in his room or if there's a part of his room where you can put like some kind of padding, blankets, cushions, something maybe on the wall to make it softer. And if you see any antecedents to him starting to get upset, you can kind of redirect him into that space in order to keep him safe, so that you, again, ignore the behavior, not the child. So you can keep him in that area and keep him safe without necessarily having to react so much if he is banging his head in an area that's less safe. The other thing that I would do is, again, add reinforcement to the plan. So the first thing I would ask you is, how frequently is he banging his head? Is it something that happens 10 times an hour or 10 times a day? That there's a big difference there. So once we determine how often the behavior is happening, we get an idea of about how long he can go without it happening. So say, as an example, he does it 10 times an hour. That means on the average, he does it every 6 minutes. So I would build in a reinforcement plan where initially I reinforced him for every 5 minutes that he did not bang his head. Okay, this is called a DRO, where you're reinforcing any behavior other than the behavior that you don't want to see. It's like you're reinforcing the omission of the behavior, basically. So I would set a timer for 5 minutes, and I would take a picture of something that he really, really likes. Okay, so say he loves a book, or say he loves a puzzle, or say he loves a specific video. You can take a picture of that, cut it up into 5 pieces. Every minute on the timer that passes where he's not banging his head, put 1 piece of the picture down, and after 5 minutes, he can build that whole picture together. As soon as the whole picture is built, he gets access to that item or activity. Okay, so if while he's earning pieces of that picture, he does bang his head, I would immediately stop the timer, reset that interval. Or you can actually remove 1 piece and reset the interval, but I like to start by just resetting the interval. As soon as he's appropriate and not banging anymore, then I would start the timer all over again for the next 5-minute interval. So again, it might take 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes to earn the 5 minutes, 5 appropriate minutes to get those 5 pieces for 1 each minute. So if you understand what I'm saying, if he's not appropriate, you have to reset the timer. It could take longer than 5 minutes to earn 5 1-minute tokens. Once he's built that picture, however long it takes, he gets access to that item or activity. Now, as I mentioned before, sometimes we have to build in layers of contingencies to make it even more motivating for the child to do it the way we want them to do it. So what I've done in the past is I've said, if it's a 5-piece puzzle, like 5-piece picture, if he earns 5 pieces in 5 tries, so he was perfect and I did not have to reset the timer at all, he earns the reinforcer for 10 minutes. Whatever that video is, he could watch it for 10 minutes. Then after 10 minutes, I'm going to stop it. We're going to go back. I'm going to reset the timer again. Okay, we're going to do it again. He earns all 5 pieces in 5 tries without resetting the timer. He gets the video again for 10 minutes. Now, if I have to reset the timer 1 time, so he earned 5 pieces in 6 tries, I have to reset the timer once, he only gets it for 5 minutes. Okay, we want there to be a big difference in being perfect than having the behavior happen. So if it doesn't happen at all, you get it for 10 minutes. If you have to reset the timer 1 time, he gets it for 5 minutes. If you have to reset the timer twice, he gets it for 3 minutes. If you have to reset it more than twice, he earns it for 1 minute, and that's it. So now he's going to learn the faster I fill up the board, the less often you have to reset that timer. Not only do I earn my reward, but I earn it for a longer period of time. So that's like doubling the reinforcement. We're adding some layers there. So not only does he want to earn the video, but he wants to earn the video for a longer period of time. So again, this is a procedure that's a little bit complicated. And with the behavior like that, that's such significant self-injury. This is something that I would really want to explore with you on a one-on-one basis, where we could discuss things on an ongoing basis, so you can let me know, you can give me feedback. How did this suggestion go? What does the behavior look like today? How many times did he hit his head? How many times did he earn with the puzzle piece? If you have a question about how to do it, I could answer it right away. So I would really, for behavior like this, I would sincerely recommend booking a call so that we can give you some ongoing support in changing a behavior like this. Because a behavior like that, that can be dangerous, really requires more back and forth. So again, I gave you some general suggestions, but I really would want to have some more back and forth for that. Okay, here's one more question in the chat, and then I'm going to switch over to live and see who wants to ask me a live question. Do you believe in using table time? If so, would a timer be appropriate at table time? Yes, I definitely believe in using table time. It really depends on the child and what works for that child. There are going to be activities that you need to sit down and engage in at a table. So it's good to teach them that right off the bat. And it can be really good for doing things like puzzles or matching or picture ID. And you can sit behind the child and prompt them from behind if they need prompts. So you're not prompting them. They're not looking to you to see if you're looking at the card they're supposed to select, or you're looking at the object they're supposed to match. So using table time is great, but you want to mix it up. You don't want to sit at the table for a long period of time, especially if it's something new. I love the timers. Timers are great for everything, because not only will it let your child know this is the amount of time you have access to this item that you want to have, and when the timer is off, you have to give that item back and we get to choose to do something else. But it also lets you know if you don't want to engage in an activity, it won't go on forever. It's not an indefinite thing. You only have to tolerate this non-preferred thing until this timer goes off for this designated amount of time. And you can either use a visual timer or a digital timer that they can see count down, or a timer with the dials so they can actually see the time getting less and less and less. And after some exposure to it, the child will realize, oh, okay, I only have to tolerate this for this amount of time, and then it goes away. And I only gain access to something I want to do for this amount of time, and then I have to do something different. So I love timers. Timers are extremely useful. Okay, so that being said, I am now going to open it up. I'm going to look here. Let's see, participants. Let's see, I see we have a couple of hands raised. Emily Lou, I see your hand is raised. If you would like to unmute your mic, Emily Lou, please feel free to add, I am at your disposal. What can I do for you?
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So I have a son who's 25 months,
Mhm.
diagnosed with autism. Lately, he's starting to have the biggest tantrum over the smallest demands that we know he can do.
Okay.
For example, when we come home, I say shoes and socks off, and he used to be able to unstrap the Velcro of his shoes and just take off his socks and put the socks in his shoes. And we would always say, "Oh, good job," and praise him. But over the past month, like once he turned 2, it seems like he's just starting to tantrum, flap to the floor over the, demands that we know he can do because they're pretty simple and he's done them in the past. And
Mhm.
I've tried to pair the demands now with reinforcers like videos and fruits, but he is super stubborn. He does not want to listen when he does not want to listen. And so at the end, I have to physically prompt him to take off the shoes and the socks. But it's just becoming difficult because he's just, he's just crying and tantruming. And I just don't know what to do to make this seemingly easy demand not so intolerable for him.
Let me ask you, has anything specific changed in the last month other than him turning 2?
I don't think so. I mean, not that I am aware of.
Mhm.
I mean, the one thing with my son is the only thing that's consistent about him is that he's inconsistent. Like
Okay.
there
Okay.
are certain days where he's fine, he'll do it, and then there are certain days he doesn't want to do it, and it's a big tantrum, and I can't pinpoint like a pattern.
Okay. So the
And I don't know
first
if it's
thing,
just because he's 2 and it's just expected of him.
part of it could be that he's 2. And at that time, a lot of kids start to develop a little bit more desire for independence and, being a little less tolerant of being manipulated around and kind of prompted to do things. So it could be a little bit of that, but we don't want to assume. So the first thing I would recommend is let's figure out why the behavior is happening. So I would recommend taking some data, some ABC data on it. So each time he doesn't listen or he has a tantrum, I would write down what happened immediately before it. So I asked him to take off his shoes and he tantrumed, or it was time to take a bath and he tantrumed, or I gave him a plate of food and he tantrumed. So whatever happened immediately before and what happened immediately afterwards. So he tantrumed and I tried to prompt him, or he tantrumed and I redirected him, or he tantrumed and I ignored it, or I tried to talk him through it, or whatever it is that you're doing. Just write those things down for a week or so. That way we can see what the pattern is. If there is a pattern to it, we can start to figure out, oh, it looks like in these occurrences, it might be escape, but under these occurrences, it looks like it's attention. And then we can try and figure out how to cue you in to be able to tell the difference, because all the right answer on how to handle the behavior all depends on why the behavior is happening. So if he's doing it to get out of doing a task, then
Yeah.
prompting him through the task should help if you're doing it consistently after about 2 weeks. If you've been doing it consistently for about 2 weeks and you're not seeing any progress, then it may not be to escape the task. It could be for your attention. It could be for something else that he actually wants to have at that moment, or it could be a sensory reason. It could be that it's uncomfortable for him, or for some reason he's developed some sensory defensiveness to it.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
So once we find out why it's happening, we'll know what to do about it. So that would be my first recommendation, because everything else you're doing is exactly what I would recommend in terms of prompting him through it, not letting the escape, pairing it with reinforcement. So now the next thing I would do would be, all right, let's take some data, let's figure out what's going on, and then I can advise you further.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Please come back to another meeting and share that data with me so that I can give you some more guidance.
Okay, will do.
Okay, great. Let's see, Shakira, if you, oh, there we go. Please, I am at your disposal. Please let me know what I can do for you. I think you just need to unmute your mic. Shakira, if you are available, please unmute your mic, and I am at your disposal for a quest. Up, there you go. What can I do for you?
Yeah, thank you. My son is 3-year-old, autistic as well. We're trying to do Zoom meeting for his speech. Normally, we'll just put him in his iTop chair and he'll sit. He will look what they're doing and saying. But now he doesn't want to stay in the chair anymore.
Okay.
He just like run around and do his own thing. And like I'm telling him, okay, you gotta sit in the chair, or they're saying, okay, you need to come in person. And I really don't want to drive to take him there.
Right. Okay. So the first thing that I would recommend is how long will he sit for? Will he sit for a couple of minutes and then get up and walk around, or will he sit for like a period of time, or will he not sit at all?
He sit for a couple of minutes because he normally sit with no problem.
Okay, so what you might want to start doing is reinforcing him for sitting. So what I've done in the past is, does he happen to like food reinforcers, like snacks?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I've done in the past is I've taken a little clear plastic cup, and then I'll take small pieces of a reinforcer that the child likes, and I'll have them sit down, and for every, say, approximately every 30 seconds to a minute that they're sitting down, I'll drop a small piece of the snack in the cup. And then after, say, if he can sit for a few minutes, I would make the target 3 minutes. So to start the very first time. So I would periodically, as you see him sitting nicely and attending to the screen, drop little pieces in the cup, because then he won't have to look at it. He'll be able to hear it, so it won't necessarily distract his attention from the screen once he learns the process. So I would drop little pieces in the cup, and then every 3 minutes he gets what's in the cup. If he attempts to get up, if he attempts to grab the cup, or if he stops participating, I dump out what's in the cup, and then I'll start again every few, period of time, dropping more things in the cup. And again, whenever that timer goes off, whatever's in the cup he gets. So if I just dumped it out right before the timer goes off, he gets an empty cup. If I dumped it out and I only had the opportunity to drop one little Cheerio in there, then he might only get one little Cheerio. But if he's been sitting the whole time, there might be 5 or 6 of them in there by the time he earns them. So it'll show him not only is he getting reinforced for sitting, but the longer he sits and attends, the more reinforcement he gets. And if he gets up, he'll see that he loses access to it.
Okay, so if you sit like about 10 minutes, you get like how many reinforcements?
So I would say right now, I would try to drop a little piece in the cup, say every 30, 40 seconds that he's sitting and attending. I would set another timer for 5 minutes, and every 5 minutes that the timer goes off, give him whatever's in that cup. And if he gets up, dump out the cup, and then just you're not going to reset the 5 minute timer. The 5 minute timer is just going to keep going. And whenever that 5 minute timer goes off, you're going to hand them that cup. You're just going to, on your own, approximately every minute or so, you're going to just, as you see he's doing the right thing, you're going to just drop something in that cup. So there's not going to be a timer for that. That's going to be based on you just watching him. One time it might be 30 seconds. Next time it might be 40. It might be a minute. It might be 10 seconds because you saw him do something really good. So you'll just randomly be dropping little pieces of snack in the cup. But when the timer goes off, he gets whatever's in that cup. As soon as he tries to get away or gets up or stops paying attention, you dump out what's in the cup. So the longer he's sitting and attending, if he's sitting and attending for the whole 5 minutes, there should be a nice little pile of snack in that cup for him. If he's gotten up once, there might be a little less than that in the cup. If he's gotten up a couple times, or he just got up before the timer went off, he might be getting an empty cup. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, try that and see how that helps.
Yes. And what helps with like throwing like the cushion all over the house without, let's say, stop and he continue doing it, right?
Okay, so that could be for your attention or your reaction to it. So the first thing I would do is say, try to redirect him or give him something appropriate that he can do. Okay, and then say, as an example, he throws the cushions off the couch. See what happens if you don't put them back on, so he can't throw them off again. Like, he throws them all on the floor, ignore it. Just let them stay on the floor and walk away so that there's no reaction. But you really have to try to not have a reaction. If he sees a reaction, he's going to see that there's a way to control your reaction if he wants to get a rise out of you. So the first thing I would recommend is try and ignore it. Leave the cushions on the floor. Give it a couple of minutes. try and interest him in something else, like redirect him to something else. And then once he's engaged in something else, you can put the cushions back on. Then you can reward him for leaving the cushions alone.
We reward him for leaving the cushions alone when he throw them on the floor.
Yeah, like when he's not throwing them on the floor, reward him for leaving them alone.
Okay.
Okay, try
And
that and then come back and let me know how things are going.
So I pick them up and then he's not throwing it again, then I reward him.
Right, right. So the first thing I would do is ignore it, leave them on the floor and walk away and give no reaction. And then as soon as you can redirect him and he's engaged in something else, then you can put the cushions back on the floor. And as long as he doesn't throw them again after you put them back on and he's still engaged in that other activity, then you can reward him for, wow, you're playing so nicely, you're leaving the couch alone, way to go, here's blank, and then give him something or praise him or give him a lot of attention for it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
And then let me know how things go.
Sure.
Okay, let's see. Nancy, would you use timers in conjunction with tokens? Yes, absolutely. Depending on the behavior, Nancy, I would definitely, depending on what the behavior is and what you're trying to change. Yeah, I've used timers in conjunction with tokens quite often. The procedure I was just describing a minute ago about cutting up a picture of a reward, setting a timer, and then giving a piece of the picture for every, say, minute that goes by without the behavior. That is really using a timer in order to give tokens. The tokens just happen to be the pieces of the picture that we're building up. So depending on what behavior you're trying to change, absolutely use the timer to alert the child that that's when if they've been working that whole time, that's when they're going to earn their token. Absolutely. Let's see, Latoya, my son doesn't do anything for me at home. However, he does things at school. This is not uncommon. And it could be for a variety of reasons. It could be a generalization issue where maybe he just hasn't generalized using the skills he's learned in one environment to another environment. It could be reinforcement where maybe they have a more powerful reinforcer at school than you have at home. It could be learning history where he's learned how to get a reaction from you, but at school, they're well trained and they know what to attend to and what not to attend to. They have support. They have other people there that they can call if they need help, and you don't have that at home. So it's not unusual for that to happen. So the first thing I would do is find out from school what reinforcers they're using and what are the easiest behaviors for him to engage in at school, and what does he like? Does he like to complete a puzzle? Does he like to follow directions? Does he like to play a game? Does he like colors or numbers or letters? Like, what is it that he likes? Then I would start a reinforcement system with him at home for doing some very easy behaviors for those skills that he enjoys the most, and use those most powerful reinforcers for them. So I would start there. And if that's not successful, please let us know and we can give you some other suggestions, because then it could be a couple of different things. It could be positive behavior affect, it could be negative behavior affect, it could be a couple of different things based on what systems they're using and what the contingencies are in each environment. But again, that's something that we need to get a little bit more information on. So to start, I would recommend finding out what things he likes at school, find out what he's successful with at school, what they're utilizing at school for a reinforcer, see if maybe they can even videotape a little tiny snippet of him doing some of those things at school, and see how you can replicate that at home and use the most powerful reinforcers that you have available at home to start, and start very small things, and then we build up from there. Let's see, anonymous attendee. I live in a country where schools are not accessible for children on the spectrum. My son is 6 and home with me. How can I get him from having so much screen time without having a meltdown? So I have a presentation that I do on restricting media access for children that I will be doing that presentation on, let's see, when am I doing that presentation? I'm not sure I'm doing that one again. It'll probably come up again pretty quickly on our group, one of our group meetings. But again, it depends on how often he's currently using it, what he's using it for. Unfortunately, there are a lot of areas that don't have access to ABA, but you might be able to get access to ABA via Zoom. You might be able to get access. Again, I would definitely recommend booking a call, because if you don't have access to ABA where you are, you can get that one-on-one support through us, through either our group coaching sessions or through our one-to-one accelerator program, where we'll give you that one-to-one assistance and we'll help you develop programs, and then we'll help you implement those programs with one-on-one assistance with the BCBA, Michelle, and the mindset coach. So I would definitely recommend book a call so that we can provide, we are actually currently working with people in a lot of different countries that don't necessarily have access to the same kind of services that we do in the States. So you are not alone. Please book a call, because this is something that we have been doing. We're actually working with people in quite a few different countries right now. Let's see, Tricia, my daughter plays in her stool sometimes whenever she doesn't get clean if no one is watching her. Okay, so this could be, the first thing I would do is recommend getting a medical eval, make sure that there's nothing going on medically or with her GI tract. Or if you book a call, talk to Greer, our dietitian, about any possible GI recommendations that she might have in terms of diet or GI stuff. Now, if it's not a medical issue, it could be a sensory issue. It could be that it feels good. It is satisfying some kind of sensory need for her. So I would try to replace it with giving her things that she can touch that has a similar texture, like clay or Play-Doh or slime and things like that, to let her have an appropriate way to get the same kind of sensory input. I would also ask what your reaction is and what the other people's reaction is when she does this. If you're talking to her a lot, if you're giving her a lot of attention, even if it's corrective attention, if you're giving a lot of attention for this behavior, that could be reinforcing it in and of itself. So this is, again, a behavior that I've dealt with for years and years with a variety of different students. And a lot of the ways that we change it, it really is dependent on the reason behind it. Let's see. I'm going to ask for Charisse Palmer. I see your hand is raised. Charisse, if you want to unmute your mic, I am at your disposal and will be happy to answer your question. All you have to do is just unmute your mic and I am at your disposal. Oh, there you are. Hi, how can I help you?
Sorry, it was accidental.
Oh, no worries. So do you have a question?
No.
Okay, no worries. Thank you for participating. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you. Yes.
You are welcome. Okay, let's see. Vanessa G, if you have your hand up and if you would like to ask me a question, I am at your disposal. You just need to unmute your mic and I am happy to answer whatever question you might have. What can I do for you? Nope. Yeah. Hello, Vanessa. Hi.
Hi.
How can I help you?
Okay, so my question is, I have my daughter. She was diagnosed with autism when she was 18 months. So we've been doing a bunch of ABA.
She's gone.
Oh, I don't know what happened. I lost you.
Yeah, we lost her.
Okay, sorry. If you end up coming back on, Vanessa, just raise your hand again, and I promise I will come right back to you.
We have Emily.
Okay, let's see. How about Brittany? Brittany Orr, I see your hand is up. Brittany Orr, if you want to unmute your mic. I am
Emily first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Say again.
We have Emily first.
Oh, I spoke to Emily first. She had a 25-month son with autism who is tantruming ever since he turned 2. Wonderful. Okay, Brittany, or I want to get everybody at least one question before I go back and answer a second question for anybody. So, Brittany, if you are available, all you need to do is unmute your mic and I am at your disposal. Hello, Brittany, are you there? Okay, Brittany, I will come back to you in just a moment. I see, oh, Vanessa, you're back. Vanessa, please unmute your mic. Let's continue with your question.
I'm sorry. Someone
That's
was
okay.
calling me and I exited out. Sorry about that.
No worries at all.
Thank you. My question is, I need help with potty training my 2-year-old. That is a big one for me right now.
Yes.
She's, it's so funny, not funny, but crazy how someone just said pretty much what I go through with my child. She does the same thing. She goes in her diaper and, plays with her stool. It goes to the point to where she'll even eat it.
Okay. So it could be, it could be for attention.
Yeah.
It could be a sensory thing. So those would be two things that I would want to test out. So,
and I know you said something about the GI. What is that? Can you get more into detail about that?
Absolutely. So I was also going to say the first thing that I always recommend is to get a medical check first to make sure that there's nothing going on with like the gastrointestinal tract at all. Make sure that there's nothing going on in terms of, I know a lot of our kids have problems with their diets. A lot of them have problems with their bellies. A lot of them have problems with using the bathroom. And we always want to rule out any kind of medical issue.
Okay.
And one of the people that we happen to have at CFOC is Greer. She is our registered dietitian. So for anybody who books a call with us, book that call. If you sign up with us, you'll get monthly access to Greer, and she can really be very helpful in terms of things that affect the diet and the GI tract and things like that. So she can definitely, that's more her area of expertise in terms of the medical kind of stuff and the dietary stuff that might be affecting using the bathroom and things like that. As far as behaviorally goes, if it's not a medical issue and it is a behavioral issue, then I would recommend trying to figure out if it's either attentional based on a reaction or if it's sensory based on it feeling good and maybe replacing it with something else that's sensory. So I would first, anytime that happens, minimize your attention, minimize your reaction. Again, ignore the behavior, not the child. Clean her, but clean her being boring and neutral and not attending and not talking and not just clean her up, get her changed, give it a couple of minutes, and then you can interact with her again so that you're not reinforcing that behavior with any kind of attention. I would also give her access as much as possible to things like Play-Doh or clay or squishy stuff like that, and see if minimizing your reaction and giving her access to something that feels similar is helpful. I would also definitely recommend, Michelle does a potty training boot camp. It's a 3-day potty training boot camp that is extremely effective. As soon as you are ready, that you have like 3 days that you can spend intensively working on the potty training. We have a great potty training program that we can help you with that has been successful for all the people that we've used it with have had success with it. So we can definitely help you with that. Just get into the chat, book that call, and ask specifically about the potty training boot camp because that I think can be really, really helpful. There are a couple of prerequisite skills that we want to work on in order to make sure that she's ready for potty training, like being able to sit, attend for a couple of minutes, things like that. That's all covered in the potty training boot camp. And in addition to that, I'm also going to be doing a Q&A with Michelle. I think next week we're going to be doing a Q&A on potty training on July 6th, and we're doing another one on September 7th. So we have one coming up like right next week. So I would definitely recommend like book a call and specifically ask about the potty training workshop.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then also one more thing, one more question I have real fast. How do I help? Okay, when it comes to her taking a bath, she does not like it when I wash her hair. I can wash her body, no problem, but it comes to her hair, even doing her hair, like putting it up in ponies, she does not, she'll pull it right out of her hair when I do it.
Yeah, it sounds to me like that might be a sensory issue as well. So you would need to work on some desensitization with her on that. So that's something that can be a little bit of a complicated procedure that we really would want to go over like kind of week by week with you. But basically it would be getting her used to really small pieces of that. So like as an example, instead of putting her hair up into two like ponies like this, I would take like a very loose scrunchie, put it in one loose like even like down here, like towards the bottom of her hair, put a timer on for like 30 seconds. And as long as she keeps it on while the timer's on, big reinforcer for that.
Wow.
Then take it off. And then again, build it, then do it again a few minutes later and keep building up that time from 30 seconds to 40 seconds to a minute and a half, a little, then start putting it a little higher up on her hair, then tying it a little tighter, put it around twice instead of once, then maybe tying 2 loose scrunchies in a tail. And again, give her an out, give her a way to say like all done. Or if she's verbal, give her a way to say all done or out. And if she asks appropriately, I would reward her at first so she has the appropriate way of getting out of it. And then I would try a better reinforcer. So you can take it out, but if you leave it on till the timer goes off, you can get this. So that way she doesn't have to resort to pulling it out. But I would go really slowly, a little bit at a time based on her success. And like I said, if you book a call, this is something I can kind of help you with like week by week.
That's awesome. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
My pleasure. Let's see. Asanati, Andrew, I am apologizing if I don't pronounce your name correctly. Yes, please unmute your mic. I am at your disposal. Asanati Andrew Chimbaka. If you want to unmute your mic, I am at your disposal to answer a question.
Hi.
Hi,
how are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good, thank you. For me, we've had a lot of issues with biting and hitting and stuff like that, but obviously these were all communication. How would you say he was wanting to communicate?
Yes.
So as time has gone by between the school and I, we figured out what it is that he's looking for. Now he has a communication device, so we're hoping to teach him to be able to communicate his needs through that.
That's wonderful.
But it's been uphill. Right now, let's say, for example, when he wants to get on the table, I've been telling him feet on the floor, and he seems to follow instructions. But of course, we've had to put him on meds because he had, he was not attentive. We had some issues, some big issues, but that obviously was impeding his learning. So we had to put him on some medication to take the edge off the behaviors, the aggression. So yeah, we're still working. It's a work in progress, and I have taken on what you have been teaching today, and I will listen to watch the replay again. These sessions are very helpful. Thank you very much.
So glad to hear that. Thank you so much for letting me know that. Thank you so much. Please feel free to book a call in the chat room so that, as things come up week to week, we can be there to help and guide and give any other advice or suggestions that you might need. And I'm really glad these are helpful for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Let's see, we're going to go for one more question here for Tesha. Tesha, are you available? Do you have a question? I see your hand is raised. If you would like to unmute your mic, I am at your disposal.
Can you hear me?
I can. Hello.
Hey, I posted a question in the chat, but I had a quick question before I do that.
Okay.
So with the workshops, do we have to enroll and pay the fee to do that, or can we go to those?
So I'm not exactly sure how all of the billing goes for that. I think that there are workshops that you can sign up for individually as a workshop. And then there is our group coaching, which is our 3-month program. So I would suggest to book that call or email Stella at michellebrodgers.com and ask her that specific question. Can I sign up for the workshops, or can I sign up specifically? Do I need to sign up for the 3-month program, or can I sign up for individual workshops? So workshops like this, I believe you can sign up for, just like everybody signed up for this one tonight, without necessarily being one of our enrollees. But our group coaching sessions that we do week by week, that's part of our 3-month program that you guys sign up for. And that's the call with Michelle, the call with the life coach, and the group meeting with the BCBA, and the monthly call with Greer. And then we have a separate program that's 1-to-1 with the BCBA, with the life coach, and with Michelle. That's 1-to-1 assistance with that. But that's different than these particular workshops. So I'm going to be doing workshops twice a month. And those are like these, that you can just sign up to do the workshops. And then if you're interested in additional assistance with ongoing issues or with implementing the strategies that we discuss at the workshops, then you can book a call and get that ongoing support and the community and the Facebook and all of that.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that,
Oh,
because
no worries.
when you said the potty training one, I was like, yes, that's a big one for me, because that was one of my things. I have 2 with my oldest. She actually got diagnosed right before she was 4, and she was having symptoms literally right from birth. I mean, when she finally got diagnosed, they're like, I don't know why she wasn't diagnosed at 1 with how severe she was showing. But right now, the main thing is, well, 2 main things. The first one is she's just huge on hurting. When like she can't get her way, she hurts me, she hurts the therapist, she hurts her sister. I mean, she like whips things. And when I say like whips things, I mean, she'll like pick up even something heavy, like her tablet or something, and like full force throw it at my face, try to do that to her sister. She screams at the top of her lungs. She smacks me in the face. She kicks me in the face. If we try to do anything, I know you mentioned some things, but even like positive reinforcement, she doesn't respond. Like if we try to, say no, she doesn't respond. The spanking, she just looks at you and laughs like it's like a horror movie. I mean, she doesn't respond to any type of, I don't want to say negative, but sometimes it's even positive too. She just kind of doesn't respond to it. But the therapists don't even know what to do with her at this point. And she does OT, she does speech. She did have an ABA. We're on a temporary hold with that one, but
so
nobody
the first
has.
thing I would ask is, have you gotten a medical eval?
Like, what do you mean? Because we took her to the neurologist and they actually mentioned genetics recently. So we're going to do testing for that, because my husband's side, his brother and sister, they're on the spectrum. His cousins are all on the spectrum. I mean, I'm on the spectrum. He's on the spectrum. It completely runs in our family. So that was one thing they mentioned. Other than that, I've had similar things that the other parents mentioned, like the one with the helmet. We never did the helmet, but I mean, she would do stuff like that in the past where it was like the repetition. She would just over and over, like jump off her bed or run into the wall. I mean, we've had her looked at with the pediatrician and like I said, the neurologist. She has a sleep specialist. We've had to put her on melatonin and hydroxyzine, because prior to that, she wasn't sleeping at all. I mean, even as a baby, she wouldn't hit 6 hours. I mean, it's been quite a few years of struggle with things, and she'll be 5 in October.
So one of the things that I would recommend is, so in an instance like this, where you've already, like my first response to behaviors like this is always like, let's find out what the function is. Let's try some reinforcement strategies. Let's try some redirection. It sounds like you've already been down that road. You've already done that. So one of the things that I would recommend that I've used with some other students that have also had some really significant issues with behavior and that haven't necessarily responded well to the other positive only plans. What I have used with other kids in the past is to give them something appropriate that they can hit. So I would get like a punching bag or some hit pads or kick pads, maybe even like a little stand up like kids punching bag thing. And the first thing to do is to teach her that if she hits that, if she hits the punch pad, if she hits the punching bag or the kick pad that you can hold, as long as she hits those things, not only will she not get in trouble or redirected, not only will you not bug her, but you'll be happy about it, right? You'll praise her, you'll reinforce her, everybody will be really make a big deal about that. Because one of the problems that sometimes we face as behavior analysts when we're trying to change a behavior like that is people right away obviously want to know what the function of the behavior is, and we try and replace it with something appropriate. But the piece that we're missing is that catharsis. Like sometimes there is that release just from being like, oh, like, you know, like I might mess up something and be like, oh man, like that didn't help anything. It wasn't corrective. It didn't make things better, but it just made me feel better just for a second to get that out. So for kids that either need that catharsis or are getting self-stimulatory response behavior from engaging in that behavior, or they're getting such a big response from it, like for whether it's happening for a variety of reasons, giving her an appropriate way to do it that everybody can be happy about, as opposed to redirecting her when it happens against a person, that might give her that outlet that she needs. And that might reduce it in those other conditions. I would also, so not only would I get like a little stand-up like punch pad for the kids, but like if you do martial arts training or anything like that, they have these little square pads that you can hold. It's like, it's got like a strap so you can hold it, and then it's like a cushioned pad. I would get a couple of those as well. They're not expensive. That way you can keep them handy. So if she tries to hit you, kick you, or her sister, you can block with that and give minimal attention to it, but at least you can still block it. She'll still be hitting the pad instead of you guys. And if she hits the pad in place of hitting you or instead of hitting you or goes to that first, that's where you give a lot of reinforcement and a lot of positive praise for that. So that way she has an alternative way to get out the same thing that's appropriate.
Yeah, we've tried stuff like that before and different techniques as well. Not the like blocking pad for like us, but we've tried multiple different types of things where we've, you know, like designated something like it's okay, you know, it doesn't work. So
right. Well,
she's a
adding that other pad so that you can block, like for you and for especially and for her sister as well, removes the extra part of the reaction that she gets when she does get you. So being able to just kind of block like this and hold up that thing and let her hit that is much less of a reaction than having to either duck or move or block or redirect or scoop up the other daughter or try and get in the middle of them and so that there's a lot more reaction to it. So that would be my first recommendation, to do that and to try that method. And then to continue to take some data on what happens right before and right after, but I would definitely utilize a strategy like that and try and do it as consistently as possible for 2 weeks, because sometimes the kids have learned that if I don't respond to this new thing right away, you'll take it away. It will disappear. So sometimes we have to use a strategy that may not seem like it's working for like a week or two, just to make sure that it's not that the kids are trying to get us to remove it, because the kids are really smart problem solvers. And a lot of them have learned, if I just don't respond the way I want to respond, you're going to stop doing this. So I would recommend trying that and come back in a couple of weeks and let me know, like, especially if you're going to sign up for that potty training workshop, let me know how things have gone between now and then. And if you, maybe we can give you some additional suggestions as well.
if it's a learned behavior, do you have suggestions with that too? Because I know she's made comments like, oh, in a video game, it's like, oh, the kitty hits the doggy, or like she'll see, something in like even the Disney shows, like, oh, well, it's okay that I can hit sister because, I don't know, like the car hit the other car or
Oh
something.
yeah, it could definitely be a learned behavior. So I would definitely put together maybe some social stories and maybe look for some appropriate video models online for appropriate social behavior, appropriate video models, appropriate video social models. And that way she could see appropriate ways of dealing with conflict, not people that aren't hitting each other, because it absolutely could be a learned behavior. And then she would have to learn to discriminate what is appropriate from what's not appropriate, what's okay to do pretend and what's okay to do in real, what's okay to do on TV, what's okay to do in person. So we could do a discrimination program like that as well. Because it sounds to me like, yeah, it could end up being a learned behavior as well. So that's just compounding the problem.
Okay. Yeah, I know she has issues still. I mean, obviously, I know autism, it's the processing, but that's her main thing when she gets upset, just processing. And then I know she's mentioned that before. So is there stuff online too where it's like, since she's 4, like she can see other kids, how they act at 4?
Yes, yes.
She's
Look for those.
Sister. Like
Look
she
for
goes.
like social play videos. Yes.
Okay.
There are
She
a
goes-
lot of them that are out there. There are also apps, like I know there's Social Builder, Social Skills Builder, I think is an app that has a bunch of videos on it. But I'm sure you'll be able to find a lot on YouTube as well. And if for whatever reason you're having difficulty finding them, please when you come onto the potty training program, let me know and I will look up some resources between now and then, and we can talk again and I can pass those along to you as well.
Okay, that was super helpful. Yeah, because she tries to be like her 2-year-old sister. Like she'll do the goo goo gaga. I mean, she goes out of her way to act like her too. So I've mentioned that with the ABA supervisor too. Like, she needs to be socialized with other kids her age because she has no idea how to act. And she just
Yes.
tries to be a 2-year-old. So that was actually super, super helpful. I'll get the punch pad too, but I really appreciate it.
Anytime, not a problem at all. It's my pleasure, really. And we'll speak
Can I
again.
add one more quick thing?
Yes.
So I know I'm gonna do the potty train course, but another thing she does is she goes out of her way to like poop and pee. She's still in diapers. We did recently, like she can go in the potty and she gets excited to do it, but we're nowhere near the point where it's like, she could do underwear. I mean, we do it like maybe 3 times a day, and
Okay.
she gets excited to go. We've done like the stickers. That's like her thing. But also in the day she goes out of her way in her diaper to get like so soiled. I mean, there's like pee all over the floor. There's poop on my floor. Not because she like takes it out of her diaper, just like she likes to leak all over the floor and whatever. And this isn't like a potty train, like they're in their underwear, it's an accident. I mean, she goes out of her way to like soak the diaper so intensely that there's pee everywhere, and she won't let me change her. And it's not because there's something wrong down there. We've already ruled that out. I just don't know what to do with that, and neither does the ABA either. Is there something you could kind of give me in the meantime until we do the potty course?
I mean, the only thing that I could really recommend for that is what I'm sure that you're already using like her most powerful reinforcer. Are you reinforcing her for being dry, like on a timed schedule?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've
That would be my main suggestion, would be to use her most powerful reinforcer and periodically not only take her to the potty for opportunities to eliminate, but also check to make sure if she's dry or not, and reinforce both eliminating appropriately in the potty and the being dry part. If you're able to get her like some special like big girl underwear, that sometimes can be motivating enough to be like, oh, I'm not going to ruin this. Or if she has like a favorite character, like, oh, we're going to get you the Dora the Explorer panties. And these are big girl Dora panties. And we're not going to make those wet because then we can't wear them again. And so sometimes that kind of stuff can help. And if she's really not ready to be in underwear yet, you can put the underwear on and put the pull up over it. So if she has an accident, you're not cleaning 40 million times a day.
That is an amazing suggestion. Yeah, she's nowhere near underwear, and we've tried that, like the
Yeah,
unicorn.
put the underwear on under the pull-up. That way she'll still feel the wetness against her skin because the pull-up will now the moisture away to make her least uncomfortable. So if she's in her underwear, she'll be more likely to feel it. And it's the big girl underwear. And if the big girl underwear are dry, you get blank. And so that might be helpful as well. Just put the pull-up on over the underwear.
That's an amazing suggestion. And with the positive reinforcement, lately she's been very excited about like playing games, but it just seems like all of her positive reinforcement are like electronics, like a game on her tablet, like she'll go on daddy's computer and play like Minecraft or whatever it's called. Is there some other way I can try to lessen the screen time? Because it seems like that's the only thing she'll respond to. And then it's like 90% of her day is just her on screens.
Yeah,
And
the screen time is something that we really do try to limit as much as possible, but right now you have to make a decision in terms of what is more important to address at this point in time. Is it more important to address the behavior with the potty training, or is it more important to address the screen time? Because if that's her most powerful reinforcer, that might be the thing that's able to get that behavior under control. And then once we get
Yeah.
that behavior under control, you can actually use the tablet to condition up other items to be reinforcing. So as an example, if she wants the tablet, I might say, okay, well, first you have to just look through this book and then you get the tablet. So it's like that stimulus pairing. First you do a little something you don't want to do, then you get to do the thing you do want to do. And over repeated pairings, like if I have to go through the book to get the tablet, over time, the book starts to take on reinforcing properties that were associated with the tablet. And over time, she might want the book instead of the tablet. And then when you're able to have a few other things that she likes at least as much or almost as much, then we can start restricting the tablet only for the most significant behavior and utilize other items in its place for other more minor behavior. The key is that the reinforcer has to be proportional to how difficult it is to do the behavior. So if it's a harder behavior, we need a bigger payoff. If it's an easier behavior, we could use something that's more minor.
this was so helpful. I mean, honestly, in all the 4 years she's been alive now, this is probably the most helpful information because all of the specialists, even therapists, just call her a special case, not like the norm. But at the same time, they don't know what to do. And like when she's acting up, they just say like, oh, we'll just wait until the behavior's done, because with her, when she's being screaming and whatever, you can't get through to her until she's done. So what am I supposed to do? Just have her like scream and be crazy like the whole day? And
Yeah,
then when
that's not appropriate. I mean,
yeah,
I understand what they're saying. Once a behavior happens, when you're in the middle of that screaming, it's not a teachable moment. Like once it's reached a certain level, you have to wait for it to pass before you can intervene. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be addressing it to prevent it from happening the next time.
Yeah. And like I said, with her, I guess it's a special case and it's like an all day, all night thing. And then even the ABA, we've told the ABA supervisor, I mean, she sees it. She's like, what are we supposed to do? Just stand here for hours and let her just scream? I mean, there's not like regular kids, it's not like, oh, a little tantrum and it's over. I mean, for her, it's like hours.
That just means that you need to be working with somebody who has a little bit more experience and who's dealt with some more difficult cases like that.
Well, I appreciate all of this. This was huge, and I'm definitely going to do all of this. So thank you so much for taking
My
extra.
pleasure.
help
Please
me.
come back and keep me posted.
I will. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you guys so much for all of your participation tonight. It really means a lot to me that these presentations are helpful for everybody. I really hope everybody will book a call so that I can get to know you guys even better and can help you with all of these things on an ongoing basis. So please book a call, come back to the workshops, and I really look forward to seeing you guys again. As I mentioned before, I will be doing workshops twice a month, so keep an eye out for those. And please, please, please book those calls so we really can help you through all of these behaviors on a regular basis as you need it. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. Have a wonderful evening.